Welcome back. Well, yes, indeed. We will be talking about what transpired in that meeting and beyond, because you could almost tell that clearly all is not well, because ASUU themselves are now kicking concerning, following that briefing by the Minister of Education. So how they respond moving forward will be so much in the focus, And so, that's part of what we're going to focus on today, and we're going to try and get across to the president of ASUU, who hopefully will be joining us in a moment to shed light on what is going to happen hereafter, because there's been so much expectations. So that is what is going to happen. So I think we've got the Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, the president of Academic Staff Union of Universities, who joins us virtually. Good morning, Prof. Thank you for joining us again today on Sunrise Daily. Well, listening to the Minister of Education, who I remember the last time we spoke, you were quite enthusiastic about his role, his expected role. You thought that he was the one who should be in the front lines and not the perhaps Minister of Labour, who he came across as though was, quote unquote, or for want of words, throwing spanners in the works. But now the government says, no work, no pay. What's next for ASUU?
Well, thank you very much for having me. And just like you have said, we are quite surprised that the union went on strike. First of all, it was just for 4 weeks. This minister and all other ministers did not respond at all, not a response. We extended by 12 weeks. They didn't respond. We extended again by 4 weeks. Before we started hearing President say we are giving him 2 weeks to resolve this problem. Only for you to come this and say it's not 2 weeks, which means they are inconsistent among themselves. The question Nigeria should ask this minister and the government is, if a union goes on strike and say for 4 weeks, why did they deliberately keep quiet and not do anything? Know that all the students in Nigeria will be at home. They extended by 12 weeks. They didn't do anything. Were they just trying to see how they can save money by ensuring that the strike linger for a long time? That's the impression I'm having, that they deliberately kept this strike this long so that they can say we will not pay you. I think using that, maybe they can save money to pay their fuel subsidy. So it is so sad that you allow the children of the poor to stay at home just because you want to save money to pay fuel subsidy or whatever they're talking about. I think it's so sad. And honestly, we trusted this minister, we believe in him, but what we are seeing now, it shows that there's no difference between him and that of Labour.
So before this pronouncement of his, and when those several negotiations went through with different groups, did this matter? Had it always been there, or did the meetings with the groups take it for granted, both parties, ASUU and FG, did they take it for granted that, well, yes, they were always going to pay the backlog of the salaries? Because I do remember asking if they had paid at the time, asking you specifically, and you said no such thing was going on. So was it assumed, or was it spelled out that, yes, even when all else is being sorted, this clearly has got to be paid?
It was never there. We do remember this process started in 2017 when the government set up a team to negotiate with us, headed by Babalakin, Dr. Wale Babalakin. That negotiation broke down, and we went on strike. Government called us back again that we have a new team headed by Musa Jibri, and we reached a collective bargaining with Musa Jibri in June 2021. And they requested that we should give them a little time to go back and consult with our government and come back to us to sign, which we did. And they didn't come back till we started this strike. And once we started this strike, they came up with another team again that we don't agree with Musa Jibri. We are putting a new team now headed by Nimi Briggs. And Nimi Briggs committee also met with us, and we asked them to give us an offer of what they want us to take to our members. And they gave us an offer which we accepted, and we have the documentation to show what we accepted is their offer. And we're waiting for them again, only for the Minister of Labour to go to the press to misinform the public that we chose away government team from a government parastatal from the system. Two, that Nimi Briggs was negotiating for himself when he's no more a lecturer anywhere. And three, that we gave ourselves this. We have documentation from this Minister of Education. That documentation that shows that what they offer to us, which he also told us privately, was what we agreed on. Only for this same government to come again and say we disagree. We are going to take what a commission, that is the Salary Income and Wages Commission, as what is government position. This is what they have done. They have deliberately, very deliberately, expect this minister delay this process of negotiation, maybe with the sole aim of how to save money. Because they believe that by keeping them at home and at the end, which they never mentioned before, and say no work, no pay, they will save money. I think it's so bad for this system. It's terrible. It's heartbreaking. And I just pity for our children who are at home.
Okay, if I may, President of ASUU, I'd just like to know what exactly is the expectation of ASUU members normally? When you go on strike, or even labor unions, are you also hoping that when you go on strike, for however long it is that you're away, that your entitlement, your full entitlement to be paid whenever it is that you come back? Is that the practice amongst labor unions?
Let me tell you the difference between ASUU, Academic Staff Union, and other labor union. Other labor, when you go on strike and you come back, all those periods for which you were on strike, you don't need to go and do the work, the backlog. But for ASUU, when we go back today, we are going to go and start from 2020-2021 session. All these two sets of students that have been admitted by JAM, we have to teach them over this period to ensure that we meet up with the system. So we are going to do the backlog of the work that we have left behind. So we are not going to start today and say this session is 2022, 2023. Therefore, all these two sets of people that have been admitted by JAM are cancelled. We have to take another admission in 2023, 2024. That is the difference between the two unions. We are going back to do the work. We're going to do all the, and that's why
you haven't quite answered my question, sir. I can appreciate the difference which you are trying to explain, but you haven't quite answered my question. I'd like to know what exactly the practice should be, because from what I understand, from what I have heard, it should be that when union members pay dues and when these monies are collected, whenever it is that there is a strike action, unions should be able to comfortably pay their members for however long it is that they're telling their employers that they will not be at work. Isn't that supposed to be the practice?
You are not following me, and you didn't allow me to finish. What I have said is, if we agree on that, therefore, all the lectures that we should have taught for 2020, 21, 21, 22, they should be allowed to go. They should be allowed to go. So we'll start for a new session 2022, 2023, within 1st of September, which is where a new session should start. And therefore, by next year, by July next year, I will go on my leave, as you used to have in those days, so that the backlog is gone. All the lectures that are remaining, all the two sets of admission that JAM have done that are waiting, they become irrelevant. So let me also tell you, we take care of our members. I know where this idea is going to. We have been on strike. This is the 7th month, and our members are not complaining. So it's not you who will complain for our members. We take care of our members' welfare. So, but we are saying that
I'm asking what the practice is, Professor Sodeke. I'm not asking whether you're looking after your members or not. I'm asking what the practice normally is. That's what I'm asking. Is it the practice that labor unions, pay?
In ASUU, like I said, academic staff is different from other workers. The practice all over time, 1982 to today, is that because we are doing the backlogs of what we are supposed to have done during those periods, we are going to back. Have you seen a lecturer going on leave? In those days, you take 3 months leave. We spend this 3 months leave now to
Professor, now that you have brought up that particular explanation, let me just go to the explanation which you have given. You have said that the difference between ASUU and all other labor unions is that for those people, whenever they don't go to work, the work days are lost. But for ASUU, you still have to go back and still do the work. The work is waiting there for you. But you must admit that that time can never be regained. That time is lost. What it means is that it is the children who are, have lost their time in school. I mean, a program that would normally take 4 years, even if you were to go back and visit the curriculum, you will finish in 5 years. Isn't that the situation?
We are not paid per time. We are paid per work done. That is, say no work, no pay. Not no time, no pay. So get it right. We are paid for work done. We are not paid for the time. That is what we are paid for. So to go and do work for when you are not paid. And two, I'm surprised that this one because the main issue by the minister.
If you say you're not paid for the time, how in what exactly do you use to do the work? Isn't it time that you use to complete the task?
Let me give it to you. A typical session in the academic calendar, a typical session is 8 months, 34 weeks is a typical session. And for a normal system, check all over the world, the next period you use one to go for your leave and relax, and to do your research work. That is what the other months do. But now we spend all this period to ensure we meet up. So we also, one, enriching our life. Two, sacrificing our leave, which you, another guest, I know you get leave. No lecturer in Nigerian Defense in the past 10 to 15 years has gone on leave. So that is the difference.
All right.
And two, let me also tell
you.
Well,
Prof, there's so many grounds to cover.
Just a second. Academic staff program, academic staff work, we have three. When I was employed, my letter said I would do three things: teaching, research, and community service. So all that we have left behind during this period is teaching. We are still doing this research and community service. So it's not correct that when you are on strike, you close everything. It's not true. My appointment letter, my coordinator says I will do teaching, research, and community service. The one we have not done, which we are going to cover when we go back to work, is the teaching.
Well, Prof, when you were speaking about the implications of perhaps if ASUU were to accept saying, all right, if you won't pay for the work, quote unquote, not done, which you're likely going to do if you were to resume, has that conversation ever, come up with government? Because you suggested that they will be the ones who will not allow the consequences to play out. If you say, if government insists on no work, no pay, and ASUU gets back to school, you have to let so many things go. Has that ever come up in any meetings with governments and during the negotiation, the consequences?
You see, my real surprise about this, why are we talking about pay? We should be talking about the issues on ground for when the student will have to go back to work. I'm surprised that the minister will come. Instead of talking about the issues that we are sure university reopens, we are talking about punishment. We are talking about threat, about blackmail. We should be talking about government doing the needful and ensure the university reopen and the students get quality education they deserve. Before you start talking about whether payment or no payment, to me, these are inconsequential issues. The issue of paying
Prof,
6 months.
Nigerians are usually not in the meetings. Nigerians are usually not in those meetings when they happen. So it's only when the participants come out that people ask questions. So in trying to help Nigerians understand what's going on, that's why these questions come through. Because when you hear the government officials speak, it appears as though everybody has agreed on certain things. And so that's why we put in this kind of questions. But just hang on a minute. My colleagues in Lagos have got questions for you, perhaps on the subject matter, because there's several other grounds that we need to get clarifications on. Guys?
Yes, thank you, Chamberlain. Prof, I'm sure it is the expectation that government would deploy the no work, no pay rule. So for the union, it shouldn't come as a surprise. And, this is not the first time we've had you on the program. You've always said clearly that, government assumes that ASUU is going to bend on the no work, no pay rule. But then, again, ASUU is going on, getting stronger. I recall that you've said that much on the program. So in that regard, and it also is the rule that at the end of the day, when the issues are resolved, the union members will get their monies paid. So at the end of the day, it's still the students that suffer. And as my colleague said earlier, the time lost can never be regained. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, the offer that the Minister of Education said it made to the union, it said that ASUU turned down the offer, but all the other unions have accepted. I'd like you to speak to these two issues before I come with my subsequent questions.
I still want to say again, the issue of whether you pay 6 months or not is consequential. I should not occupy Nigerian time. We expect the government to come and tell Nigerian public, one, what have they decided on issue of revitalization? Two, what have they decided on issue of UTAS that they have tested, and the minister agreed yesterday that UTAS came first and IPs that they have been promoting and doing came last to solve the problem of mismanagement of our fund. 3, what have they done on the issue of end academic allowance, backlog over 6-7 years? 4, have they released the visitation panel report? 5, what are they doing about the issue of proliferation of universities? These are the issues that should occupy Nigerian time, not whether they pay our members or not. We can handle that. I don't think those are the issues. So, on the issue of other unions, you see, ASUU is quite different from other unions. By today, if not our struggle in 1992, 1980 and 1992, if not for our struggle, we will not have universities today, such as the issue of TED fund that now fund all the private, the state universities and federal universities, the issue of the assessment. If not for ASUU struggle, we will not have it. If not for ASUU struggle, as we are today, we will not be having...
Professor Shodeke.
Let me finish. Please. If you have asked a question, let me answer. You took the time to answer the question, and you allow me time to answer.
Okay, proceed.
So if not for this ASUU struggle, we will not be where we are today, that you now have 95% of Nigerian students in public universities and only 5% in private. For a long time now, if you recall, just listen, for a long time now, the teachers in many universities are on strike. Have you had anybody say they work on this? Because the private have captured. As we speak, so the research institutes are on strike. Did anybody talk about them or no work, no pay? Because the private sector have occupied them. It is because we are the reason why you still have public universities today, and that's why you're having this attack. And those of who are attacking us, most of them, if you look at it, they have interest in private universities and have all their children abroad because they are not affected. But when we see that we have a good university that our students will be able to attend. So we are not like other unions. If they want to withdraw, we didn't go together. We didn't start a strike today. It's not a joint strike. So it's not our business if all of that have gone out. It's our business to ensure that the university work. That our students will be able to sit in the classroom and they have their colleagues from other part of the world within the classroom. Having lecturers all over the world teaching them. That's what we want. We're not interested in all these issues without no work, no pain. To me, they are inconsequential and we should not waste our time on it.
Okay, Prof. Did the federal government, through the Minister of Education, make an offer that ASUU turned down? And if indeed it made an offer that ASUU turned down, what is this offer and why did ASUU turn it down?
Look, you remember, during the era of Abdul Salam, General Abdul Salam, they dashed us. They gave us award, and we rejected it then. That ASUU we don't accept award. We negotiate our wages through collective bargaining, not the minister awarding us something. That if we are part of that process of collective bargaining are concluded, they should respond to it, not dash us salary. That's what we're saying. Let's follow the principle. If they dash us salary today, tomorrow they can also withdraw it if there is no collective bargaining. So they should come to collective bargaining, and we are finished with that.
But the Minister of Education says that all the other unions have agreed to government's offer in principle, and the expectation is that all the other unions will call off their own strike very soon. Is that the case, Prof?
Please, I want to talk again. I am here as the president of ASUU, not the president of all other unions. So I cannot speak for them. Ask me questions about ASUU, about other unions.
Yeah, yeah. So is it a confirmation now that, Sano had said earlier on that whatever negotiation ASUU is making with the federal government, it will not be bound by it? And how much of this division has affected the resolve of the education unions as a whole in its struggle to having the universities revitalized?
Please, let me say again that ASUU is in a struggle, and I'm the president of ASUU, represent ASUU, not SANU, not NASU. They're on their own. We can't negotiate for them. If they accept that their salary be withheld, if they accept that they don't want the university they don't want a revitalization fund, they don't want AA paid to them, they don't want any of these things they're asking about, it's their business. If that's what the member told them, that's not our business. Ask me questions about ASUU, not other unions.
But
ASUU, the comparison, we don't have any conflicts.
But sir,
we are separate unions.
Prof, ASUU is a union, and ASUU operates under the laws that unions are guided by. One of the things that you have also been quoted to say, you quoted laws in one of your recent conversations with the media. The 1981 FG ASUU agreement established the principle of collective bargaining based on the Wages Boards and Industrial Council's Decree Number 1 of 1973, the Trade Dispute Act of 1976, ILO Conventions of 1948, and all of that and all of that. So ASUU recognizes that it is operating under the same laws that govern all unions. That's the reason these questions have been asked that way. So concerning, the issues around this no work, no pay thing, there are those who believe that it's within the confines of the law to put in the no work, no pay rule. That the laws of Nigeria and even international, ILO, conventions and all those things also guide some of these no work, no pay rules. Is there anywhere in any of those laws where ASUU or the education sector or the university, sector of unions is extricated from those laws? Is there an exception, a law that exempts ASUU or any union like ASUU from the no work, no pay rule?
Please, I want to say it again. We are a union of intellectuals. If you have any part of the law and a court judgment that says no work, no pay, can you quote it, please?
Prof.
Yes, no.
As I said,
yes,
ASUU is a union. Yes. Unless you are saying that there is a separate law that governs the academia. Otherwise, ASUU is a union. So it's just a question we're asking just to get clarity so that people can also sympathize with ASUU and say, look, based on this, that is why ASUU is taking this position. So I'm just asking if there is any corner of the law that extricates the academia from the no work, no pay rule if government decides we're going to go with it.
Can you also quote that particular law and quote it and the court judgment that says that when a lecturer is on strike, and is going to do the backlog of the work that he left behind while he was strike, he cannot negotiate for payment. That's when you have negotiation. Simple. Please, let's talk about issues, not about whether no work, no pay. To me, they are inconsequential.
But the reason this is coming up is there are those who believe and who, while sympathizing with ASUU, also listen to the federal government and say, hey, the country is in dire straits financially. So when these issues arise and looking at the backlog that the government is going to pay, it's probably going to just elongate the entire process if government is unable to pay. Not just that they say they cannot pay, but that they are unable to pay. You have spoken to that part as well, that, government, as far as you're concerned, is giving baseless excuses concerning whether or not they can pay. Can you validate that indeed? Because, looking at all of the information making the rounds, it would seem like the federal government is in dire straits.
Let me put this to us, that we should not waste our time on this issue. We started strike in February. The federal government forced us to go on strike because they refused to implement the agreement they signed through collective bargaining in 2009. And you forced a union on strike to go on strike. And the union started the strike. It's just like every other part of the world. Instead of intervening, you decide to wait to ensure that the period accumulates. Please, place the blame properly. Did we force ourselves on strike? We have signed 5 memorandum of understanding and memorandum of action on how to implement this over this period of time. And this government completely refused to implement them. So we sit down and clap for them, allow Nigerian university to generate. What we are doing is we should be commended by the public. Because any day we let down this guard, the children of the ordinary Nigerian, not of the politician, will be forced out of the university system because the government intention of what they are doing now is to force us in such a way that they can introduce the tuition fee they have been talking about. That's the idea. So we will not let down.
Okay. Well, Prof.
Like I said again, let's discuss issue for which we are on strike.
Okay.
Let's discuss the issue why our university are in such a way that you don't have foreign students, you don't have foreign lecturers. Let's discuss the issue of why the children of the rich are going outside, but are spending billions of dollars to take care of their children and killing our universities. That's what we should be discussing.
One of those issues.
Whether no pay, no work. Okay. Is inconsequential.
Okay. One of those issues is the UTAS IPs imbroglio as well. Now, you said the last time, raising a lot of excitement and hopes, that in no time the UTAS seems to have been approved or accepted by government. But then we also hear that government is saying that is not the case. On that, what exactly is happening?
Thank you. You see, this is where you have people talking from both sides of the mouth. When we met with this minister, he told us the issue of UTAS and IPs have been resolved. And that when the test was carried out on the 3 solutions, UTAS came top on 2 of the 3 items tested. UTAS was first in 2 out of the 3 items tested. And that UPPIS was top in 1, second in 1, and last in 1. While IPPIS was last in 2 and second in 1. And based on that, they are jettisoning the issue of IPPIS, and they will accept UTAS in conjunction with IPPIS. And he said that yesterday also. He said it very well. The IPPIS came a distant last. He mentioned it. And then the minister now come again to the public and say he didn't say so, that they are not accepting results. So if we tested this based on when the chief of staff convened a meeting, as directed by the president, that we should test the 3 and accept the number 1. And they have tested, and UTAS came number 1, and now he's saying that we didn't accept it. It's so sad. If you say you didn't accept it, why do you say you have resolved all the issues, except the issue of no work, no pay? That's the inconsistent you have in the system.
So, Prof, at the moment now, because when the government says that, look, well, we didn't say that UTAS is approved as the payment platform. What is the current position now? Because that appears confusing still to both parties.
That's what I've said. That as at now, this government have not, on other issues, apart from the issue of negotiation, issue of salary, the government have not come up with any concrete decision on all the other issues. They've not. They've not given any report. And you are going on air to lie to the public that you have accepted everything except the issue of no work, no pay to blackmail us. They should come out with a documentation on their acceptance on all the issues that I have listed. So that's how we have seen this country.
Because, the minister also said that the institutions control the internal generated revenue of those schools. And so he was trying to make a point that the schools have some finance that they could do certain things with. Is that the case?
You see, that is why we told the government. One of the reasons we went on strike is that government should investigate all the universities by setting visitation panel to go to university and investigate them and come out with a white paper, a report. And the law was very clear that every 5 years, the government will send a visitation panel to the university to look at how the finances is wrong, how it is administered, and then every 5 years, we have to go on strike before this government agreed to set up a panel after 11 years. And that panel was set up in March last year. The report is not out. So if the report is out, the government can tell the public how the fund in the system, whether IGR or what, is managed. But we are the one forcing government to investigate the system, and they are refusing. So that is the issue. But let's put it straight. Do you know what it takes to? No, do you know what the event like Ibadan? For you, you know how much the government give them or annual days to run the university to Barreto? Less than 500 million. The payment for electricity by the law is more than 1 billion in a year. You can check. Unilag, more than 1 billion in a year. So, but what we are saying, if there is infraction in the system, it is the duty of the visitor to send it, that is panel, and look at it and punish those who have done it, who have mismanaged the fund. But they have refused. After 11 years, and the law says 5 years. And we are the one who is forcing this government to go and investigate them and produce the report. This thing has been done more than a year ago, a year and 6 months ago, and the report is still not out. So that you know how the internet, but do you also know that the National Assembly is also forcing the university that for these pittance they get from the students to pay for ID card, pay for hostel, that they are forcing the university to remit 26% to federal allocation account. I don't know where anywhere in the world where university become a fund generation institution. You can ask that. They are forcing them. putting pressure on them to remit that money. If you don't, they deal with you. Is university a revenue generating agency? The business will not come out to tell you this, but this is what they are doing to them.
Well, Prof, you know, for a number of people, they will say that ASUU has certainly shown good faith, at least every single time, you know, that the media asks ASUU to show up. You know, you're always more than willing to share the perspective of ASUU. It's been very difficult to get the perspective of government, say, except for that instance yesterday where the Minister of Education spoke to pressmen. It's been very difficult to get him into studios, for instance, to take questions on what precisely the situation with ASUU or even our education system is. So while ASUU will continue to keep, you know, trying to hold government officials accountable, I'd like to take you up on a number of other issues. For instance, this claim that the federal government has spent, is it 6 trillion naira, they said, 6 trillion naira through, 6 trillion naira in 7 years through TED Fund on universities. How would you, you know, rate the role of TED Fund so far and their intervention in Nigerian universities? Do you think there's anything we can learn from them?
Thank you very much. You see, go and check, and this is necessary. TED Fund has been there since 1992. Has he ever been audited anytime? Two, who run the fund? You can check. The TED Fund is being run by politicians. When the TED Fund the law was made, ASUU was supposed to be a member of the board to control the mismanagement of the fund. But somewhere along the line, ASUU was edged out. So I want the federal government, if they are sincere that they have spent 3 trillion, because it doesn't appear in the university, they should set up a high panel, judicial panel on a TED Fund and look at how that money have been managed, if what they are saying is true. So it's not just coming to speak. Set up a high-powered judicial panel with all major stakeholders in Nigeria, the companies and those who pay the tax, members of that committee. Let them thoroughly investigate TED Fund to show whether what they have said is correct, whether that money actually went to the university or went to some people's pocket. I think that is what we're in a country today where even termites can enter all those big offices in Abuja and destroy materials, where snake can swallow money. So they need to know whether that money they are talking about actually went to the university or they were eaten up by termites or snakes.
So you're not satisfied with how TED Fund has intervened? Quite a number of your colleagues whom we've had cause to speak with, especially in the medical sector, think that, you know, there has been some improvements in terms of, and the focus of TED Fund in trying to fund research. You do not agree with them?
Look, thank God that medical people talk about research alone. We're not talking about research. Government said TED Fund had released 6 trillion. That's what you told me. And I'm asking, has that money actually, if we have put 6 trillion in Nigerian university, would they be the way they are today? And that's why we're saying that federal government should put together a committee, a judicial panel to look at it. Whether that, if you have a system that you have set up based on our struggle, when we were on strike that is not a TED Fund, our members were ejected from their staff quarters. In Nigerian university, they were ejected. They were punished the way they want to punish us also. And we had this established, and we have been removed out of it from monitoring what is happening. So we want this country, in line with best practices, to set up a judicial panel to investigate TED Fund and see how the fund have been managed. From what I see in universities, that quantum of money you are talking about did not get to the universities.
All right, Professor Emmanuel Osoteke. But just quick one before you go. Have you heard about this Congress? I think they call themselves CONUA, a group of academics in universities who are having a meeting. It appears that there's talk about a new academic staff group. Have you heard about them?
Well, I think I've heard about a group who called themselves CONUA, but it doesn't exist. For you to have a trade union, you must be registered with the Registrar of Trade Union. You must have a certificate of registration. So any group can come up and call all sorts of things. We've seen so many of them. We've seen management ASUU, manager ASUU. We have seen all sorts of things. They are just one of them. They are not. To me, they don't exist. And when the government starts dealing with illegal group, you show how far the government is going.
But is ASUU worried? Because I think it was the Benue State government or so that were talking about trying to talk to the federal government or get some sort of permission to see how they could pull out of ASUU and such conversation. Is ASUU worried about that?
We are not worried. Our members are 100% with us. Our students are 100%. You saw the senior president yesterday say that it's not, they will not sue ASUU because ASUU is not the one who created the problem. That they are suing the minister and the federal government. Our union, our student union, they know what we are fighting about. And the ordinary Nigerian on the street who know why we are in this struggle, they are complete with us. Those who are fighting against us, who have the access to all this media, are those who really don't like Nigerian education system, who have all their children and relations abroad, who don't like this system. Anybody who has a child in Nigerian university, anybody who children in future will enter Nigerian university are completely with us. It is this headlight who you see them hanging with their children outside university, outside abroad, having convocation and matriculation. Those are the people fighting us. Those are the people who want to destroy unionism in the system so that they can do exactly what we want with our money. With the ordinary person, they remain slaves to their children, and it will not happen in this country.
Well, it's interesting you say the students are with you because only yesterday the Minister of Education did advise them, said, well, they can sue ASUU and see for some sort of compensation for time lost. And now you say they are with you and not contrary to what the minister has said.
You need to read the response by the president of NAS, Comrade Asefon. He said ASUU is not their problem, that their problem is the government. If they must sue anybody, and they are actually doing that now, they are consulting lawyers, they are going to sue the Minister of Education and the minister and the federal government for forcing ASUU, who is an employee of the system, to fight for the system in their own interest and the interest of this country. You can read it. It's in the papers today.
All right. So as things stand now, government says no work, no pay. And ASUU is saying that we will not go back to school until government pays the outstanding salaries. Is that right?
What we are saying is that we can resolve this issue within one day, just like Jonathan did in 2013. When he got to this day in 2013, Jonathan summoned everybody to hear the truth. In 2013, Jonathan summoned all of us, Minister of Finance, Deputy Vice President, all
yeah,
the
Prof, we
unions,
understand that.
The
ministry...
That he want to hear the truth and take a decision. And the president called all of us went there. Yeah. He heard the truth. And finally, we resolved that problem within one night. That can be done at this level, either by a committee or people who are patriotic, not these ministers you are seeing who already have bias, but that we can resolve this issue in one day and our children will go back to school. All that is left is in the hand of the government. Instead of come and tell us no work, no pay, and all these things, they should call a meeting and resolve this issue within one day. If the non-academic staff or those you talk about decide to go to school, I can assure you, give them 2 or 3 months, they will come back on strike. We must resolve this and once for all. And a very high-class meeting that can resolve this issue overnight can be called and will resolve this issue in one day, and our children will go back to school. We are very ready, but the government is not ready. They want to push this for as long as possible and see how they can
must the president attend that meeting?
Who?
Must the president attend the meeting?
No, you hear me? I say the president can set up a high-class committee made of people who are patriotic, not the president, who are patriotic, not these ministers who are already compromised in terms of how they speak, who are already biased. Set up a committee of people. In Nigeria, we have a lot of people who love Nigeria, who love education. Look for them, not these government officials. And put up a committee that represent the president, or he can send anybody to represent him, will resolve this overnight. Not these ministers who are already biased, who are looking for press coverage.
All right, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, President of Academic Staff Union of Universities. Thank you very much indeed for your time today.
Thank you.
All right. Well, back in a moment. Stay with us.